what's up, everyone? I am live coming at you in the studio room to talk Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is the first live episode of the podcast. So I'm coming at you right now with my thoughts, reactions, breakdowns, all of it coming at you live in the studio room. So excited to be doing this finally on the podcast. I had a lot of fun with Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is going to be great. I can't wait to break this down for you all. It's going to be a fun time. So let's kick everything off right. Welcome back. I hope you guys are doing awesome tonight. After this, you will be able to rewatch the live episode on YouTube tomorrow. We'll get to see all the graphics and everything like that. But today we're doing it live, raw. Just strict reactions, my thoughts, rankings, all that coming at you right now live. It's going to be great. Also coming up, we'll continue the Marvel marathon that we're doing with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever later this week. Then we'll tackle some other movies that I have on the list as well, as far as new releases, movies you haven't probably seen in a while. There's a lot of content coming at you the rest of the year, but it's going to be awesome. So let's dive into Spider-Man Brand New Day right now. Currently in theaters, it just came out this Friday, July 31st. But if you were a lucky Amazon member, you were able to see it on Wednesday. And then Thursday, a few showings as well for some of the theaters out there. But it was worldwide on Friday, July 31st. I didn't get to see it until this morning. So it's very fresh in my mind. Just saw it a few hours ago, and it blew my mind away. This was a fantastic Spider-Man movie, fantastic Marvel movie, just a fantastic movie in general. It was such a fun theater experience. The theater was completely packed. I think there's maybe 2 open seats. I got to sit there with my family, who are all Spider-Man fans. We all just got to dive into the world of Tom Holland as Spider-Man once again. Looking at the current box office, it has made a whopping $927 million. This is a massive hit for not just Marvel, but for Tom Holland, the Spider-Man IP, just movies in general. This was a fantastic opening weekend so far. I mean, it's still only Sunday night. Maybe it'll be able to crack $1 billion come tomorrow. We'll find out on Monday morning. I think usually around 10 or 11 a.m. they usually run those box office numbers for the previous weekend for the box office. So, but looking at the budget, according to Marvel Studios and Amy Pascal, this movie, the production cost was about $225 million. Now, usually I like to add in another $100 million for any sort of marketing and things like that. So, but regardless of it, with a $927 million haul in just these 3 days, it has easily tripled its money for whatever that ending budget is. It's truly doing a phenomenal job here in the box office so far. So we want to also mention that Tom Holland was recently in the Odyssey, so he's having a massive year with the Odyssey, with Spider-Man. Still not sure if he's going to be Avengers Endgame at all, or Avengers Doomsday at all. So he could potentially have a third massive blockbuster on his hands coming later this year in December. So we'll see. Anyways, let's dive into the movie itself. So Brand New Day starts about 4 years after the events of No Way Home. If you remember, No Way Home ended with Doctor Strange casting that spell to make everybody in the world, including Doctor Strange himself, that Peter Parker doesn't exist, that he is not Spider-Man. Only Peter Parker himself remembers all the events that have happened leading up to that point. That includes MJ, Ned, Doctor Strange himself, everybody in the world, the Punisher, Black Widow, the Avengers, everybody. Nobody remembers Peter, and that's got to be tough on him. Well, he's struggling with that in this movie, and that kind of kickstarts this whole evolutionary process, this hormonal imbalance that he's experiencing within himself, that gives him organic webs, increased strength, increased ability. Like, he's just dialed up to 100 with even his spider sense has gone haywire. You get that scene where he steps outside on the rooftop and he can't control all the sounds coming in his area. He's got headaches. He's just a complete mess right now. And Evie, who is his new AI compadre with with all his tech, suggests that it could be stress related, anxiety, depression, things, post-traumatic stress could have triggered it, which seems like he has all of those. And that's a really cool character development to kind of dive into that and see how he overcomes that, which he eventually does at the end of the movie, which was a really awesome scene at the end there at the Damage Control headquarters, which Damage Control plays a massive role in this movie. We've been kind of getting glimpses and some side characters from Damage Control, but this one is at the really center of this entire movie. And it's kind of setting up this idea that Damage Control is not exactly what they have in mind. This is kind of turning into the new Shield or the new Hydra with different secrets, different experiments going on, and that's kind of what leads into the villain, Sadie Sink's character, Jean Grey. Yes, it's been confirmed that Sadie Sink is Jean Grey in the MCU, and this is where she comes in to where her, and not just her, but her sister has been targeted by Damage Control because of their abilities, because of what they could do if held unchecked. And so that kind of leads into this whole battle with Damage Control. Spider-Man ends up becoming friends with Damage Control, but then realizes that that was a mistake. And so he must rectify that with Jean Grey. So it's really heavy Damage Control, and it's really heavy on Peter juggling life as Peter, life as Spider-Man, this mutation going on in his DNA that is altering his abilities, that's enhancing his abilities and making them unpredictable, which could lead him to become a villain, which Damage Control is afraid of. And we get that small scene at the end too where they kind of glimpse that they've made weapons to stop Spider-Man if he ever got out of control, just like everybody else in the world. So it's very Damage Control heavy in this as well. I really like this storyline. I think it's a really cool way to introduce the full power of what Spider-Man can do. It's also a great way to introduce mutants, introduce, Jean Grey as an X-Men, who is one of the most iconic X-Men characters. And I can't think of anybody else better than Sadie Sink. She did a fantastic job. Now, originally, I didn't think that they would actually pull the trigger and have Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. I was on the side of, that's probably just smoke with all the rumors going around that this was, in fact, Jean Grey within the MCU was who Sadie Sink was playing in this movie. I thought maybe it would be, Jean Grey and Cyclops' daughter. I thought maybe it would be some other kind of telepathic hero that we haven't met yet. But they did pull the trigger on it, and she is, in fact, the Jean Grey in the MCU that will be a part of the X-Men in the X-Men movie coming out, I think, in about 2028 is when they're set that movie. No other casting as far as the main prominent figures yet. But if you remember on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 review episode, I did reveal that Emma Frost has been cast by Samara Weaving. So we do have a few X-Men cast so far. There's rumors going around that Adam Driver could be Magneto or Sinister, or I think Patrick Wilson has been linked to Professor X. Like, there's a lot of different rumors going around as far as casting the X-Men, but those will be massive, massive castings dropped on the internet once the MCU does figure out who is going to play the iconic team, the X-Men, and I'm super excited to see this new reboot. So let's get to the rest of the cast. I already brought up Sadie Sink. I'll try to save most of my thoughts about her in the villain scale because we will be doing the villain scale today on the episode. But Peter Parker, Spider-Man, played once again by Tom Holland. I've said this numerous times. I'll say it numerous times again. I absolutely love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He is, I think, the best version of Spider-Man that we've gotten. He has that perfect blend of what Garfield did right, what Tobey did right in their movies, and just found a really great way to blend the two, but also giving his own spin on it. And he's phenomenal. And he's phenomenal in this movie. I already posted on social media pages about my initial thoughts of the movie when I stepped out of the theater. And I think this is the best Spider-Man movie that we've gotten so far. I think this is the best version of Spider-Man that we've gotten with all the, the fight scenes, with the way he moves, the dialogue that they had Tom Holland do. The suit itself it just screams comic booky. and it's just visually pleasing to see him in this, what I think is the most comic accurate suit that we've not only seen for Spider-Man, but for any hero within the Marvel Universe yet to this day. I think it is the closest thing that you will ever get from ripping it out of the pages of the comics in this suit. It's phenomenal what they did with that suit, and Tom Holland fills it really well. He looks great in it. He moves around really well with it. It's fantastic, but he is great as well. MJ, played once again by Zendaya. So their relationship's kind of tricky. If you remember, she was included in the spell that basically brainwashed everybody, forgetting who Peter Parker was, forgetting that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. So her and Peter aren't together. She's living with Ned in college. She's got a boyfriend now, and she doesn't have those feelings anymore for Peter. And we get that really gut-wrenching scene towards the end of the movie where she finds the note that Peter wrote back in No Way Home, and she admits to him that she could see that this version of MJ in this note absolutely loved Peter with all her heart, but that's not her. She is not that MJ. She is not his MJ, and it's really heartbreaking for Peter to hear that and for the audience to hear that, because we've been following them together all these years, and with the off-screen marriage between the two and the love that they share in real life, it's really gut-wrenching to hear MJ say those words, that she does not love Peter, and it's just truly heartbreaking. And Zendaya does a fantastic job, and she's having quite a phenomenal year herself. She was in The Drama, she was in The Odyssey along with Tom Holland. She's in this movie. She'll be in Dune Part 3 along with Timothée Chalamet and a bunch of other actors coming back to that franchise. She herself is having a massive, massive career, and now she can add this movie under her belt of $927 million in 3 days. It's quite massive. Ned also returns, played by Jacob Batalon. We've grown to love Ned, his relationship with Peter, their little cool handshake. But in here, he's in the same boat as MJ. Doesn't remember who Peter Parker is. Him and MJ are living together, doing their thing. We get those really cool TikTok videos of him that Peter's watching, kind of updating everyone with his life, and that's how he's able to stay connected with Ned and MJ, because Ned is posting all these reels, shorts, TikTok footages on social media, which was a really cool way to incorporate, what people are doing nowadays in real life, where they're, basically throwing their entire life out on the internet for people to follow. And you could follow somebody in Connecticut when you live all the way in California and know everything about their lives. And that's kind of how Peter's able to stay in touch with Ned and MJ through those videos, which I thought was a really cool technique or idea to use within this movie. It was really cool. But Jacob Batalon is great as Ned. We get that at the very end scene where they do the little handshake, and he's slowly remembering how the handshake goes, and he gets that realization that this is Peter. And I think he's starting to remember, if I interpret that ending correctly, his memory of Peter is coming back slowly, and maybe that'll be something that gets picked up in the next Spider-Man, or maybe it gets picked up in one of the Avengers movies. But it's, I think, insinuated that he is remembering Peter through that handshake, and it was a way to break the spell, so to speak, which was cool. We get John Bernthal making his film debut. He's been in shows most of the time that he's been playing the Punisher. Well, now he's in a feature-length film alongside Tom Holland, who he's pretty close with off camera. The story of them working out together when they were both going for their respective roles. They were in the Odyssey together. They even share some scenes together. A really good interview, if you want to watch them together, is on the Hot Ones with Sean Evans. In that interview on Hot Ones, you can really tell that they are really good friends, or even could be labeled as best friends, which is great. And they have a really good chemistry in this movie. The Punisher and Spider-Man is a team-up that we've all kind of wanted, but this worked out way better than I thought it could. They were the comedic beat of this movie. They were almost kind of the heart and soul of this movie, was their relationship together, and it was really, really awesome to see them work together finally in these two roles that they worked and trained very, very hard to get. And they are basically the two best examples of embodying these superhero characters from the comics. Like, it's so good, and I love seeing John Bernthal act in any capacity. But the Punisher is probably my favorite role of his, and this movie proves that he is the perfect casting for the Punisher. He's fantastic in here. We also get Mark Ruffalo returning as Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk. I think the last time we saw him was really in the She-Hulk series, but now he plays not a bigger role, but I think a more important role, where he is, kind of being this arms at length mentor for Peter. You get that really cool scene when Peter comes to him at the school, which Bruce Banner is now a professor at one of the colleges in New York City for physics. And you get that really cool moment where, they're bouncing off of each other, this different theory about inhibiting specific DNA strands or hormones to combat bad ones and preserve the good ones, using Bruce Banner himself as an example to hold back the Hulk, or at least the bad parts of the Hulk, and to leave the good ones. And that's kind of their little side project that they're working on, is to quietly fix whatever is going on with Peter by inhibiting it, and he creates that inhibitor chip with the help of Bruce Banner. But it was great to see him. We get Small Hulk a little bit in here, but eventually we get like this massive rampage version of the Hulk, which I'll be honest, I kind of missed, just this big, bruising, bulking version of the Hulk, and just going on a rampage instead of it, being Smart Hulk, half Mark Ruffalo, half the Hulk, and it's just kind of a mishmash of the two characters. And here we just get the Hulk unleashed and just pissed off and massive, and get this really cool fight between him and Spider-Man within the Damage Control headquarters. Eventually, he tells Bruce through the Hulk that he is Peter, and that is the first person since the events of No Way Home that he says, "Hey, Bruce, it's me, Peter. I am your friend. Don't kill me." And that's when he decides to fall off the building, because he realized what he has done. And I love that moment too, when they carry him out of in the gurney into the ambulance, and he's like, "What did I do? Did anybody die?" Like, Bruce Banner's freaking out that he had hurt somebody, but then they had eventually, assure him that nobody got hurt, and they wheel him off to a psychiatric facility. So we'll see what happens with Bruce Banner in the upcoming Avengers films. We'll catch up with him. But yeah, it was really cool to see him in here. We get Yelena, who is now the new Black Widow, played by Florence Pugh once again. She's always a joy on screen. I love her as Yelena. I love the Yelena character. And now we finally get her and Tom Holland's Peter interacting with each other, which is great. It's really cool to see that she is kind of like leading the charge with the new Avengers, and Peter's been they kind of make it seem like they have helped each other in the past. They've built this working relationship with each other, and he's kind of familiar with the new Avengers, as they labeled themselves in that Thunderbolts movie. But they have really good chemistry together, and I hope we get to see more of them. She is confirmed to be in Doomsday, so we'll see if Peter shows up in that, or if they team up again in Secret Wars maybe. But I love the scenes. I love that her office is in like this bathhouse, and she's just chilling there, taking a bath in there, and it's just really cool. I love it when Peter's like really reluctant to take off his mask and his suit to get in the water. He comes out of the, one of the stalls, and he's in his, black little underwear, but he's still wearing the mask in this pool. It was a really funny scene and really cool like that. Scorpion, we get to see Scorpion again. I don't think we've seen him since probably Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, because he was eventually locked up in prison with Vulture. But here we get him in the comic accurate-ish suit that he wears with the mechanical, tail with the very deadly spike or whatever the thing's called on the scorpions, the stingers. I like his suit. It's pretty cool. I like the actor that plays him. I need to look up his name once again. Scorpion. He is played by Michael Mando, once again from Spider-Man Homecoming, which I think he's great. He gets more screen time in here, but not as much as I would hope. Maybe he could be the main villain in Spider-Man 5 or Spider-Man 6. But I think he done a really good job to where he could be the main villain in one of these Spider-Man installments. But the little bit of scenes that we did get with him are really, really cool. And that fight scene at night was really awesome. We'll talk about that more in potential iconic scenes for the movie, but this was a great showing of Scorpion. Detective DeWolf, she is kind of Spider-Man's contact within the New York Police Department. They talk mostly on the phone, but they seem to have a pretty good working relationship. It's cool to see that Spider-Man is starting to create these inner working relationships within, the New York City PD, so that they know that, hey, I'm here to help. I'm not here to cause any problems. I'm here to help you guys catch the bad guys as a volunteer. But she was really good in there too. We're introduced to, I'm just going to call him Bill, because that's what most people call him. He's kind of the head of damage control, and he ends up being, I guess, the actual villain in the end of the movie. Again, not much story built up for him, but it was the movie's attempt to kind of like, hey, Jean Grey is going to be like the face of the villain, but actually behind the scenes, damage control, or specifically this Bill guy, is the actual villain, where he's kidnapping people with powers, experimenting on them so that he can replicate these powers and use them against their enemies, which unfortunately ends in the death of Jean Grey's sister, Sarah, because he was trying to duplicate their telekinetic powers. So he is actually the villain of this movie, and is the head of damage control, which I've always had kind of a bad vibe from damage control anyways, from when they first introduced it. I think Spider-Man Homecoming was really the first one that they introduced damage control. So, and then I just wanted to bring this one up. Naomi Watts voices Evie. So if you're curious on who voices Peter's new AI in this movie, it is Naomi Watts. Previously, we had Jennifer Connelly, and then we had, I believe it was Linda Cardellini, was another version of it, I believe. And then, of course, Paul Bettany played the voice of Jarvis for Iron Man. But Naomi Watts is the voice of Evie, which is Spider-Man's new AI in this movie, which is great. Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who previously did Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And then also, he kind of oversaw the Wonder Man show, but he really only directed the first 2 episodes. Again, remember, I already mentioned in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 review episode, Wonder Man has been canceled after season 1. But I really enjoyed that show, and thanks to Destin Cretton, I think Wonder Man could have easily done a second season to improve on what they kind of opened up as far as its origins of the season 1. But unfortunately, we won't get a season 2, and I'm not even sure if Wonder Man's going to be a presence in the MCU as much anymore. Maybe they'll throw him into other projects, but I really starting to like Destin Cretton. He is a really good director. He's directed projects that I really, really like, and he's becoming quite a force within the MCU in the director's chair, and I hope he directs the next Spider-Man movie, because he did a phenomenal job with this one. A couple more other notes that I wanted to cover before we start diving into iconic scenes, quotes, and part of the the real meat of the show here. There was a few things that I noticed in this movie that really struck me, like, holy crap, am I actually seeing this? So they took some finishing moves from the Spider-Man video game, specifically Insomniac's Spider-Man game that has been just blowing Spider-Man fans' minds out of the water. Tom Holland does actual moves from the video games, which I thought was freaking awesome that they are incorporating those moves in the video games. That was really, really cool. Also, new suit, new logo, looks phenomenal. I've already talked about the suit, but the new logo looks really cool. I love the color scheme. I noticed that he incorporated a lot of inspiration from both Tobey and Garfield's suits, from the time that they met each other in No Way Home. So I thought that was really cool that when he was making this new suit, he took inspirations from those two guys. And I think mainly from Garfield's suit was what they really took from. But that was really cool as well. Also, I thought, introducing organic gloves finally to the MCU Spider-Man was awesome. Tobey Maguire just started right off the bat with the organic webs. Then we had Garfield, with that universe, are like, oh, okay, wait, let's do this right. Let's do the web shooters. They did the same thing with Tom Holland. Well, now they're really digging into the Spider-Man lore, because eventually Spider-Man does get organic webs, but he does go through the web shooters first. And that's really cool about this movie. It's because it's showing you the evolution of what Spider-Man's going through and amplifying his powers. And I thought it was really, really cool to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man finally, get those organic webs and use those and try to train with them. And I love his reaction when he's first, realizing that he has organic webs, and he's getting really disgusted by this coming out of his body. And that scene where he wakes up out of his deep sleep state from the night before, and he's hanging over the roof of his apartment building in this web cocoon, and just freaking out that he doesn't have his web shooters, was really, really cool. But I love it that they incorporated the organic webs finally with this Spider-Man. And then the Staten Island running gag between him and the Punisher feels like the new Budapest. If you remember Black Widow, the Scarlett Johansson version of Black Widow, and Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, they always reference reminds you a lot of Budapest, right? This Staten Island seems to be the new quote-unquote Budapest for Spider-Man and the Punisher, who seem to be the next maybe Hawkeye, Black Widow pairing, which is great. Briefly, they do touch on it a little bit. Sounds like there was something to do with a drug dealer, and Spider-Man saves Frank's life, dealing with this incident on Staten Island. They don't really go into great detail, just like Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner don't really go into detail with the Budapest incident. But this seems to be the new quote-unquote Budapest incident, and I thought that was a really great idea. The post-credit scene. Now, I didn't stay for the post-credit scene, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I eventually researched this online and found that it was a pretty brief and kind of uneventful post-credit scene, but I figured I had to mention it anyways. So I guess the post-credit scene, and I'll watch it when the movie comes out to own, but so the Spidey tracker that Ned develops to track Spider-Man around New York City, I guess is having a problem tracking Spider-Man, and it goes outward into space, kind of by the moon, and even past the moon. So I think this is kind of insinuating that Spider-Man's no longer on Earth. He could be on Battle World, which is the location of the Multiversal War in Secret Wars. He could be, I don't know, maybe he's in a different universe where the Fantastic Four are. We don't know. But what we do know is that according to this tracker, which I didn't even know could go into space, I thought it was just kind of the general area of New York. I guess this thing can track Peter wherever he is. Insinuates that he is no longer on Earth, or even on Earth 616, which is this main timeline of Earth. So I thought that was a pretty confusing and kind of uneventful post-credit scene, but it could be playing an important role in what's to come with Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Again, Tom Holland hasn't been confirmed to be in Doomsday. It's very highly likely that he will just sit out Doomsday and come back in Secret Wars, because that is where he gets the iconic black suit, the symbiote suit. So maybe that's what he is at. Maybe he's somewhere off in space. He's going to come into contact with this symbiote and get the black suit finally. So it could be a cool thing. And then I already talked about, this is the best version of Spider-Man. I think this is the best that we've gotten so far out of all three of the actors, Tobey, Andrew, and Tom. But he did a phenomenal job as Spider-Man in here. Okay, let's get to the potential iconic scenes. Now, again, these are scenes that, maybe in 5 years, you're watching Spider-Man Brand New Day for the 20th time, and you're like, this is the scene that I think of when I hear the title, Spider-Man Brand New Day. So here are your options here. So, the opening montage of Spider-Man stopping crime. He's stopping Scorpion, stopping Tombstone, and a few other lower level villains. He's also stopped the Hand, which eventually works for damage control. But this was a really cool montage. You get a couple of actual comic cover shots of Peter, saving somebody or catching a bad guy or fighting Scorpion, which is an actual cover of the comic book, getting slammed against the truck. This is a really cool montage of showing what Peter's been up to. Next scene here, Spider-Man trying out his organic webs. I already kind of touched up on this, but it was really funny when Peter was like kind of like grabbing his wrist and kind of oozing out the webbing. He was really disgusted, and the way that it kind of shoots out of his body is really out of control. I thought that was a really cool kind of way to introduce this idea that Peter has no idea how to control this thing. He has no idea how to control his body. And eventually, as he starts to become more confident in himself and understand what's going on with him, he's able to control it, at that last fight against the Hand at Damage Control headquarters. But this scene right here, where he's on the rooftop, was really, really fun. Peter fighting mind-controlled Scorpion. This was really awesome. I think this was one of the better fights in the movie. Again, Peter can't control his webbing. He can't control his strength or his anger. When he activates, the new version of Peter, his eyes turn black, which I thought was a really cool little effect that will happen to him. But eventually, he gets pissed off with Scorpion. He's beating the crap out of him. At one point, he grabs the tail and just slams the shit out of him into a cop car, injuring 2 cops. And I love that reaction that Peter has when he realizes what he's done. And he's like crying out to Detective DeWolf that, hey, are they okay? Are they hurt? Like, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. And he's just out of control. He doesn't know how to control his strength, his emotions. And this was Jean Grey controlling Scorpion, because as the fight starts to dissipate a little bit, you see her leave Scorpion's body, and he's like, where the hell am I? Spider-Man, what the hell happened? And he's just out of control. And this is where the New York City police see Spider-Man as the monster that they were afraid that he could become. The next scene I have written down, Spider-Man versus the Hulk at Damage Control headquarters. This was a really awesome scene. This is like one of my favorite Hulk scenes ever. You have Spider-Man, you have the Punisher going up against the Hulk. Everything is chaotic. You get that lead up to it where it's smart Hulk, but Jean Grey somehow got into his head. He's kicking the shit out of Spider-Man. Eventually, Spider-Man's able to put the inhibitor on him, but the Hulk is able to like get out of it, and it's in this new version of the Hulk where he's bigger, he's angrier, and I think they're calling him Rampage Hulk, which is a pretty badass name. But he was really awesome in here, and I love that scene where he's just throwing Peter. He's against the walls. He's body slamming him. Eventually, they make their way outside the building. Peter's trying to web him against the building. The Hulk gets out. And then we have that scene, like I mentioned, where Peter's basically on his death's door. And he's like, I got one more trick in my bag. Bruce, if you're in there, I'm Peter. My name, I was your friend. And Bruce is like, Peter, and falls off the roof to stop the Hulk, which is pretty cool. Next, this is how I wrote it, because this is exactly how I see it. Peter going God mode against the Hand. Now, this scene where, he's coming to Damage Control, he's trying to save Jean. Jean has already defeated the Damage Control guys. She's activated pretty much her full strength. She's able to basically freeze everybody within, like, I think Punisher said like a 2-mile radius. And then she takes control of the Hand, and they end up fighting. Peter, instead of, fighting with the inhibitor chip on his neck, he takes that off and just goes full. He embraces this new version of himself and goes complete God mode against him. He's kicking the shit out of him. He's using those finishing moves from the video game. At one point, he jumps up into the roof. He skydives downward. He's got both hands, and he does like this twist move where he like webs the entire area and just body slams him out of the roof. It was really, really cool. I was like, Jesus, he's activated God mode, and he's just unstoppable right now. And it was one of the visually pleasing scenes in the movie for me. It was really, really awesome. And then Peter getting shot by Frank. This was a very intense scene. Now, it's Spider-Man. They can't kill Spider-Man in his own movie, but still, it's like, holy shit. He just took a bullet for Jean Grey. And you have that really touching moment after the shot when Peter wakes up in the hospital and Frank's like, I'm so sorry, kid. Like, I've seen bravery in combat, but what I saw you do, the way you stood in front of that bullet for that girl was something else. And that was one of the better scenes that I've seen John Bernthal act in as the Punisher, and it was really touching. But the fact that Peter took a bullet for Jean Grey proves that he is the greatest superhero on earth. Like, he is incredible. It was a great scene. I think the most iconic scene that's going to come out of this movie, though, is, man, this is tough. I think it's going to be him going God mode against the Hand. Like, that is such a awesome, visually pleasing, like, every Spider-Man fan's like, Jesus, this is Peter at his full potential as Spider-Man. Like, he is just truly unstoppable. And this is what we've been wanting as a Spider-Man fan to see in a Spider-Man movie. It's really freaking awesome. I think that'll be the most iconic scene in this movie. But hey, feel free to drop in the comments if you agree with me, or if you have a different iconic scene that you're going to think of when you hear the title Spider-Man Brand New Day. Okay, let's go through some of the quotes here, and I'll point out the one I think is the most legendary of all of them. This one from Peter Parker. This is kind of how he opens it. Hi, my name is Peter Parker. You don't remember me, but we used to know each other. Something bad was going to happen, and the only way to stop it was to make everybody forget about me, because I'm not just Peter Parker, I'm Spider-Man. And sometimes Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks Peter Parker's heart. I think that last line there is really powerful. It's Peter now realizing that not only does he have to be Peter, but he has to be Spider-Man. Like, he has to kind of hold back Peter's desires, his wants, if he's going to be New York City's true hero. It's really, really good line. This one from the Hulk. If you remember that scene from Captain America: First Avenger where Chris Evans is in that theater and he's smirking because he sees the commercials of him as Captain America. I had that smirk sitting in the theater when I heard this. So Hulk goes, no Banner, no Hulk, no girl, only Hulk. And it zooms in on Hulk's face when he says only Hulk. And I had that really good, like, smirk on my face in the theater, like Chris Evans did on a Captain America movie. This is great. Frank Castle, this one was kind of teased in the trailer. But when Spider-Man kicks him out of his own van, he's like, he's trying to, like, say you motherfucker, but Spider-Man stops him midway because it's a PG-13 movie. And it covers his mouth with the webbing, and all you hear is mother effer. That was a really good one. Elena's iconic line from this movie. This is small potato stuff, not big tomato brain stuff. You know how she's always making fun of Peter, that all his crime stuff in New York is really small potatoes to what the Avengers are doing now. He's not doing bigger things that he needs a team for. So that was a really cool line that they're adding into the universe. This one from Spider-Man. This is way above your pay grade. We're fighting the Hulk, just kind of like telling the Punisher, like, hey, like, this isn't just, a mob guy that we're trying to kill. This is the freaking Hulk, and he will kill us. Just kind of set the tone. This one from Jean Grey. Are you Peter Parker or are you Spider-Man? That scene there before he activates his God mode against the Hand. And that's where he says, I'm both. I'm both Peter and Spider-Man, where he's finally able to accept who he is. His body is changing. His DNA is changing. His powers are amplifying, and he needs to harness them instead of inhibiting them. So it's really, really cool. This one from May Parker. You're beautiful, and the people you love, they love you not because you're special. We love you because you're you. Remember that even when it feels like you're totally alone, that's your deepest responsibility. Never forget that, no matter how powerful you become. That's a great line, and it's really cool to get Aunt May, Marissa Tomei, back in here in sub capacity. This was a memory. Judging by the age that Tom Holland was in that, I think it has to be, anywhere post Civil War, maybe during Spider-Man Homecoming or right before or right after, where she's explained to him, hey, I know you have superpowers, but never forget that you're also Peter Parker too, and you're not alone. Like, you have people here to help you. And this is the scene where Jean Grey gets into Peter's mind finally, and he is accepting her into his mind so that he can show her this memory and to help her understand that she's not alone. And this is Marissa Tomei talking to Sadie Sink. And it was really touching moment. It's really cool to see Marissa Tomei back as Aunt May, still helping Peter. And, Peter has to tell Sadie Sink, like, hey, you have me. You're not alone now. We're connected because of this situation that we've been in. It was really, really cool. And then this last one from Peter, when he's messing around with the organic webs, he goes, Peter too had organic webs. He's cool. You're cool. Kind of talking to himself. Kind of like a wink, wink. Hey, remember when he met Tobey Maguire in No Way Home? So that was another great line. I think for me, it's going to be that first line that I talked about. Sometimes Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks Peter Parker's heart. Obviously referencing to the fact that he told Doctor Strange to erase everybody's memory of him, including his girlfriend MJ, who he loved more than life itself. And that broke Peter Parker's heart, but it was to protect her as Spider-Man. So I think that is the legendary line. Feel free to let me know what you think, your favorite quote is from the movie, or what you think is like the tagline in this movie. Since the movie just came out, there's not a whole lot of, fun facts that I was to find or had time to look for, but I did find a couple that I thought were pretty interesting. So again, behind the reel, this is where these are facts about the movie that you probably didn't know about it behind the scenes. The subtitle, Brand New Day, was taken from the comic book storyline of the same name published between The Amazing Spider-Man number 546 and The Amazing Spider-Man 564. So this was an actual comic book line called Brand New Day. Tom Holland was sustained. He had an injury that resulted in a pretty nasty concussion during filming, sending him to a hospital and requiring him to take a break for a few days as a precaution. If you remember, I posted quite a bit about this when this was going on, I think last year. He sustained a concussion and he was out for a few days. Filming went to halt. And then a scene from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, is briefly seen on one of Ned's computer screens. The scene where the Snow Walker trips and falls on Hoth. This is, of course, the exact scene that Spider-Man references during that airport battle in Captain America Civil War. So it was pretty cool that they was a callback from his first appearance of Spider-Man in Ned's apartment on TV as that Star Wars scene. So really, really cool. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It's a fantastic Spider-Man movie, fantastic Marvel movie. I think this could be Tom Holland's best performance so far as Spider-Man. Could be his best performance in his career. He was fantastic. Everybody as a cast was fantastic. I hope we get more Punisher and Spider-Man teaming up together. Him and Bernthal have a really good on-screen and off-screen chemistry together. It's really, really cool. We'll see what happens with Spider-Man 5, Spider-Man 6, and so on. Does Ned get his memories back completely? Does MJ finally, remember everything, and do they get back together? There's a lot of questions not answered yet, and it's all going to depend on what path they take for Spider-Man, post Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, because that'll be, the next big situation or mission that he becomes a part of. And Ned and MJ probably won't be a part of those movies, if maybe a little bit, if at all. But so I think Spider-Man 5, a lot of these answers that we have at the end of this movie will probably get answered. And then, of course, Sadie Sink will be in Doomsday or Secret Wars, I got to imagine. And then, of course, she'll be in that X-Men reboot in 2028 with the rest of the new casting of the X-Men. So, but this was a fantastic movie. Go ahead, and I'm going to plan on seeing it again within the next week or so, because this movie is awesome. It's definitely going to be in consideration for movie of the year for me. We'll actually go through the candidates now. We're in August now, so we only got a few months left of 2026. Cinematic Awards will be coming in January next year to kind of recap this year. But today, at the end of the episode, I'll kind of run through the current, top 5 of the year. And this could be a serious contender for movie of the year for me. All right, let's wrap things up like we always do with all the rankings. We got quite a bit of rankings today, since this is both a Marvel movie and it's a new release. So we're going to add a mishmash of categories here. So the MCU ranking. This was really tough. Definitely in the top 10, definitely in the top 5. I think this is my favorite Marvel movie. Looking at the Spider-Man, we'll kind of do these simultaneously. Looking at the Spider-Man Universe ranking, I think this is my favorite Spider-Man movie as well. It's the best version of Spider-Man we got. I think it's Tom Holland's best performance as Spider-Man. We get him teaming up with the Punisher. We get an awesome version of the Hulk. Sadie Sink has been revealed as Jean Grey, which is going to kick off this X-Men phase of the MCU. She was really good as Jean Grey. It makes me very excited for the X-Men reboot in the MCU. Visually, this is one of the best movies that I've seen visually. It's phenomenal. So I think this is number one for me, both in the Spider-Man universe ranking and the MCU ranking. I think this is number one. Villain scale. As a reminder, this is where we look at the villain of the movie, motivation, costume, and of course, the performance by the actor. So Jean Grey, she is the main villain of this movie. Now again, remember, it kind of flips it on its head towards the end of the movie where it's actually kind of damage control is kind of the enemy. But we're going to focus on Jean Grey because she is the antagonist for most of the movie. So Sadie Sink, her performance was great. I really like her in here. I loved her in Stranger Things as Max. But she really did an excellent job as Jean Grey in here with the emotion, the connection with her sister. This kind of ties in with the motivation. Her sister was taken by damage control. She's been trying to get her back. It's eventually revealed that she died during one of these experiments, and she is just really pissed off, and she loses her cool at the end of the movie. And Peter has to, basically reason with her, calm her down, and set her on the right direction. But she was great in the costume. She's got the iconic, red hair that Jean Grey has in the movies, the cartoons, the comics. Her outfit's kind of, street clothes. Just she hasn't gotten her full, superhero outfit yet. But I'm sure they're going to reveal that in X-Men or maybe Secret Wars or something coming up. But I think she looked pretty good. Definitely with the red hair. She looks great as Jean Grey. So I'm going to give her 5 Thanos hits. She was a great villain. I really liked her in here. I like the back and forth between her and Peter. I love the effect where she's bouncing between people. And that's kind of how she's able to jump into different bodies and kind of travel, so to speak. But it was interesting that they gave her like a 33-foot radius, which I thought was really cool to kind of limit her powers until she's able to fully tap into it and kind of grow, just like Peter's growing with his abilities. With Scorpion, since we've gotten Scorpion in quite a number of scenes, we're going to do a bonus round of villain scale today. So Scorpion, I thought he looked great with the new suit, with the mechanical tail with the stinger on it. I like Michael Mando as Scorpion. He's really cool. Again, he doesn't get a whole lot to do just because he's more of a side character, but he does pop up in and out of there more than any of the other villains other than Jean Grey. So I'm going to give him 3 Thanos heads, just because we haven't really gotten much out of him in the limited screen time that he had. But he looked great, so I'm going to give him 3 Thanos heads for this one. Best in Show. Since this is a new release, we're going to do Best in Show for this. So your nominees are Tom Holland as Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Sadie Sink as Jean Grey, John Bernthal as Frank Castle, Punisher. So this is tough. This is probably one of the hardest Best in Shows that I've done. This is where, you're walking out of the movie and you're like, damn, so-and-so was really freaking great in this movie. And that's the character that I bring out of this movie with. For me, I think it's between Tom Holland and John Bernthal. They were both really, really awesome. But I think for this one, I'm going to go with Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland is the Best in Show for this movie. This is his movie. He is phenomenal in here. This is his best performance as Spider-Man. This is the best Spider-Man movie that we've gotten. So I'm going to go with Tom Holland as Best in Show for Spider-Man Brand New Day. But John Bernthal gets right up there, he's a really close runner-up because he was great. And Sadie Sink was great too as Jean Grey. I'm very excited to see them expand her role with the X-Men part of the MCU. Last but not least, the popcorn rating. If you were on social media already, you've already seen what I rated this movie. But Spider-Man Brand New Day gets the golden popcorn. This is an incredible movie. Visually, the music was great. The cast was awesome. The action set pieces were incredible. The story was heartfelt and heartbreaking at the same time. It's just a tremendous movie. Not just a superhero movie, not just a Spider-Man movie, just a movie in general. This was an incredible movie. Can't wait to rewatch this again. It's truly spectacular. So this is a golden popcorn movie. It's fantastic. I haven't given many of these out for the 2026 releases, but this has definitely earned the golden popcorn on the show. Okay, last bit to do here. Is this movie of the year? What are the candidates? So far, We're in August. These are the candidates so far for Movie of the Year on Cinematic Reviews. Project Hail Mary, starring Ryan Gosling. Really awesome movie. Go ahead and check out that review episode if you haven't seen so yet. Obsession, which we haven't really talked about at all on the show. I think we're going to do a separate review episode for that one coming up. Maybe during the October Halloween season, we'll probably do that. But Obsession blew my mind. It's one of the creepiest and thrilling and intense horror films that I've ever seen. It's truly an incredible watch. The Odyssey blew my mind. Top 5 Christopher Nolan film. Matt Damon, probably one of his best performances of his career. Definitely going to be a Best Actor runner-up. This is going to get nominated for a bunch of awards at the Oscar. This was an incredible, incredible movie, so this is definitely in consideration for Movie of the Year. Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's definitely, and it could be. You know, I know I'm a little biased being a diehard Spider-Man fan, but this is truly, truly spectacular. So it's definitely going to be a Movie of the Year contender. And then Jackass Best and Last. I thought I'd throw in a comedy there. This was another movie that actually got the Golden Popcorn for me this year. This blew me away. This was one of the funniest movies that I've seen in a long time. It's the best of the Jackass series. Johnny Knoxville did an incredible, farewell job with this franchise. So definitely Jackass Best and Last is a contender for Movie of the Year. So we'll reveal the official nominees towards the end of the year once, all the movies have come out. We still have Avengers Doomsday. We have Dune Part 3. The Resident Evil movies coming out. The Street Fighter movies coming out. There's so many other movies coming out. I know we're kind of dwindling down from, the big summer blockbuster season, but there's still a lot of movies to watch in August, September, October, and November. I mean, we still have another Hunger Games movie coming out. And then December is going to be incredible with, a double feature on December 18th with Dune and Avengers. It's going to be great. So lots of movies, lots of content to come. But thank you guys for, tuning in for the first live episode of the show. We'll definitely be doing more of these. This was a lot of fun. You get to hear me, you get to watch the show as I recorded in studio. We're definitely going to do one for Avengers Doomsday. Probably do one for Dune Part 3 as well, because I think we're going to do like a cool double feature for Doomsday, which is what they kind of labeled it as, the new Barbenheimer, if you remember that one a few years ago. But yeah, more live episodes to come. Again, you'll be able to watch this again tomorrow. I'll post this up where you can rewatch it if you weren't able to watch the whole live or you just want to watch it again. So thank you guys again for joining. Go ahead and see Spider-Man again if you haven't. I'm definitely going to be seeing it. It's an awesome movie. Again, Black Panther Wakanda Forever will be the next episode on the show. We'll dive back into the MCU Marathon in preparation for Doomsday. And then I'll kind of announce some other projects that we'll be doing as far as review episodes. So lots to come. Check out the website, cinematic-reviews.com, where you can rank movies like Spider-Man Brand New Day. You can check out the popcorn rating, the villain scale on there. You can rank it in the rankings page. You can check out full-length episodes of the show as far as the shorts, too. There's games on there to test your trivia knowledge. So much to do. Support the show. Hit that subscribe button. Check out the social media pages. Hit the follow button on there. Thank you guys again for joining in to the live episode of Spider-Man Brand New Day. Good night, everybody. See you all next time.